Many Amazon sellers ask how to create A+ Amazon listing. In other words, EBC, Enhanced Brand Content. This is the old name for A+ content. In this video, we talk to Sophie Society, the founder of Sophie Society, Rawlings. He will be breaking down the detailed formula how to work with A+ listings, and just follow his steps, what he's explaining how to do step by step, and you can implement his suggestions and tips next day, and within few weeks you might get higher conversion rates for your product sales. In this video, you will also meet LISETT Liz. She is our video host for Orange Klik videos, and she used to work, or she's still working as a store manager with several Amazon sellers. So she is quite knowledgeable in asking questions about EBC as well. So don't forget to subscribe below to the YouTube channel of Orange Klik. Click the notification bell as well, because here we talk to different Amazon sellers, Amazon experts, Amazon service providers, Amazon softwares, and enjoy this video. Hello, Chris. Nice to see you here. Could you please introduce yourself and tell how you help Amazon businesses?
Sure. What's up, Augustus and LISETT? I'm Chris Rawlings, the CEO and founder of Sophie Society and mentor in the Titan Network and leader in the Titan Network. And so I've been in the Amazon game for a while. Well, I guess by Amazon years, it's for a while, since 2015. Starting my own brands, growing my own brands, and then also helping other brands grow through my agency, Sophie Society, and then also through mentorship, coaching, and masterminding in the Titan Network. And so today, I'm going to be diving into a really specific subject that I think you're going to introduce, Augustus, and I'll pass the mic back to you.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about A+ content, and actually it used to be called EBC. What was for what did it stand for?
Enhanced Brand Content.
Okay, so now it's just A+.
Now they just call it A+ for everybody. Yep.
Yeah, and LISETT, she works with stores, so Amazon stores, multiple ones, and she has experience as well. So she might be also having few questions for you, Chris. But you said you have some presentation, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay,
yeah, I'll share some visuals. Awesome. All right, cool. So we're actually, during this period, I'm going to condense for you guys 1 hour's worth of content into just 20 minutes. So this is actually a really good time for you to just close all browser tabs, put your phone upside down, tell everyone around you that you have to be focused for the next 20 minutes, because this is like super dense. And the point is, I'm condensing all this information into a very, very short presentation for you. So I'm going to hit you hard and rapidly with the really valuable content here that, if you implement, will literally add cash to your business as soon as you implement it, and permanently from that point forward, without you spending more money or dumping money into more advertising or anything like that. So I know it's a big promise, but this is really true. And the reason I know this is because so my company, Sophie Society, is where I got all of this information from, because that's our testing ground. We do content and manage hundreds of brands through Sophie Society. We're an agency and an Amazon partner. So that means we manage Amazon companies for them, the Amazon presence for a company, but we also create content for companies as one-off content. And we're very data focused. I have a physics degree. I'm a scientist before I'm a business person. So I'm very data oriented. And we actually A/B tested all different types of EBC formulas, or A+ content formulas. And we came upon this one as the one that actually moves the needle the most. And I'm literally going to lay out a straight up formula that you can just follow step by step to create EBC, that we know, because of the data, will actually increase your conversions, hence increase your sales. Now, I won't overpromise, because I'll tell you guys that this is real data that I'm going off of, that the difference EBC can make in your listing can be an absolute difference in conversion percentage of anywhere between 0.5% and 3%. Now that doesn't sound like a huge amount, but actually what that comes down to is a relative difference in sales of anywhere between 10% and 30% or more. Because say, your conversion rate is at, 10% and you bump it to 13%. Well, that 3% difference might not sound like a huge amount, but you're actually getting 30% more sales. For every 100 people that come to your listing, instead of getting 10 sales, you get 13 sales. So for every 1,000, instead of getting 100 sales, you'd get 130 sales. So it's literally 30% more revenue for just that one listing that you implemented it on. And it's without dumping more money in ad spend day after day, week after week. It's like a permanent change. It's like instead of putting nitrous into your car engine every single day, you actually upgrade the engine and you never have to use nitrous again. So it's like, and I'm telling you the real data here. I'm not going to tell you you're going to double your conversion rate because it's not true with EBC. But if you optimize, and this is with listings that already have EBC, to optimize it with the formula. If you have no EBC and you implement this formula, you'll see an even bigger shift in that. So that's it. That's the reality. That's the promise I'm making you guys. Pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. I'm going to rail through it really, really fast and implement it, and it will change your businesses. So the basics, EBC, it's actually now called A+ content. It's the content in the middle of a listing, below the bullet points, below the title, below the images, below the frequently bought together. It's content in the middle of the image that actually looks like an infographic. That's what A+ content is. Like music, you learn the rules first, then break them. So don't even worry about doing remixes on the formula I'm about to teach you. We literally already did the work to come up with this formula that works. Just straight up implement it. Don't even think about it. Just do it. Like, act fast. I already introduced myself to you guys, so I'm going to skip this part. But we've created EBC professionally for literally hundreds of brands. This is what we do. So you can trust everything I'm about to say. The purpose for this is to increase your conversion. There are other things that you can do to increase traffic, better indexing, better advertising, targeting, external sources of traffic. This is more, when you comes down to EBC, it's less about traffic, it's more about conversion. And those are the two things that, every Amazon seller can focus on to increase their sales: is more traffic, better conversion. Literally, that's it. If you solve both of those things, you have the whole game. If you got the traffic and you got the conversion, you have an amazing business. I don't care what anyone says, those are the only two things you need. So this is about that second part, the conversion. Here's the method broken out into 3 different elements. This is what the EBC does. This is the goal. Inform or educate the buyer, inspire them, meaning make them feel like a deep emotion, and sell them. And I'll get into exactly what that means and how to do that. So here's the formula right here. I'm laying it out on basically the first slide so you can see all of the elements of the formula. There's 6 parts to it. The first one is the hero image. The second one is the story. The third one is an interactive slideshow. The fourth one is custom graphics. The fifth one is a banner. And the sixth one is a product carousel. And I'm going to show you examples of each and walk you through exactly how to create each right now. So the hero image, let's start with that. The job of the hero image is to grab the attention of the potential buyer or the shopper. So what an Amazon shopper does, and this is Amazon shopper behavior. On average, here's like the typical journey that a shopper takes when they get to a listing. They click on the listing, it shows up, they look at the very top above the fold, meaning before they scroll down. They see the first image and they read the bullet points. They might hover over a couple of the other images, 1 to 2 others, and then they quickly scroll all the way to the bottom of the listing to look at reviews. So they don't even read all the bullet points. They don't look at all the images. They briefly scan all of that. Then they spend most of the time on the reviews, and that's the litmus test that you either pass or fail. At that point, there's a gate. After they see the top voted reviews, they will either scroll back up the listing or they'll click off to another listing or hit the back button on their browser. So this is buyer behavior. Keep this in your head. because this applies to EBC, but also a lot of other things. So this assumes that they've already passed. Focus on EBC only after you've handled those other things, because that's the order of buyer behavior. Now, the reason EBC is so important is because once they scroll down to the listing, they actually then eat the listing from the bottom up. So they scan the top real fast. They scroll all the way to the bottom and they spend a good amount of time on the reviews. Then if they're still interested, they eat the listing from the bottom. So they're actually seeing the EBC and diving into the EBC more than they're diving into your bullets and your images, which is why it's so important. Because they see that they spend actually more time on that once they pass the litmus test of those first two things. So what the hero image does is when they're scrolling back up, it snags them, it captures them, and stops them from scrolling all the way to the top back again. Okay, so and you don't want them to scroll all around, because Amazon is taking the real estate on your listing with all kinds of other things, taking them to other listings. Customers who bought this also bought, frequently bought together, sponsored products related to this product, to this item, comparison table, all kinds of other stuff. So you don't want them doing that. You want to grab their attention with the hero image. So it's something really, really striking. It's usually either close up or far away. Okay. So I'm going to show you some examples of that right now. Now, this one, I wish I could zoom in, but see the top of this EBC? This is an EBC that we created for a slime company, a toy company that creates slime. Now, the top, you could see that that's a very striking image. Okay, it's a girl with her face all lit up and those beautiful blue eyes, holding the product up in front of her. And you know, if I zoomed in, you would see this takes up almost the entire screen. It takes up the whole width and almost the whole height as well of the screen. So it's very striking. It stops you in your tracks. And that's the point of the hero image. It just grabs them. Now let's move on to the second one. Here's an example of another hero image. Cute kids. Cute kids are great. Animals are great. If you have a travel company, big landscapes are great. Close-ups and far-aways, like I said. Now the second part is the story. Here's once you've got their attention, here's where you connect emotionally with the shopper. And the reason this is important is because if you're not a Chinese factory, right, and not even Chinese, if you're not a direct factory, you are not going to compete on price. Okay, so if you're a Chinese factory listening to this, I'll exclude you from this rule. For everyone else who's not a Chinese factory, this is ultimately important for your listing. And this is the biggest thing that moved the needle in our tests of the data of trying different EBCs out on different companies and different listings. And that's because this is where you actually show your ability to connect emotionally with the customer. And it's like kind of in an action movie, you know, in Star Wars, you get this deep emotional connection to a character, and then the rest of the movie you're invested in, you pay attention because you feel like heart connected to this character. You feel emotionally connected because you know their backstory. This is your time to emotionally connect, just like a Star Wars movie or something else, with the shopper. And we always run into this with companies. I would say more than half of companies that we're creating EBC for tell us, well, we don't have, you know, an amazing story, so we have to skip that part. And it's never true. Even if you think you don't have a story, you definitely do. You're wrong. You have a story. And it could be the founding story. If you don't want to brag about that and you don't want your face all over it, that's fine. It could be the story of how the product was created or ideated. If that's not interesting to you, it could be a story of how a customer used the product to solve a problem. But the important thing is that this story is person focused, not product focused or thing focused. Okay. People fall in love with people. People don't fall in love with logos. So remember that. People fall in love with people. And if you could put a face on there, faces are great. Studies actually showed, and I don't remember the exact numbers, and this was for websites, not Amazon listings, but the same rule applies. Visitors to a website reported much higher trust levels to websites with human faces on it, opposed to websites without human faces on it. And it didn't even matter if the face was like the founder or the employee. It was just the fact that a human face was there, which is nuts. So have a human face on it. And I'm going to show you an example of this. This is an EBC that we created for a wonderful company that went through 500 startups, just like us, 500 startups alum. And the founder, Debbie, actually went to Vietnam, and she sourced this new type of Vietnamese coffee and created a new way to create this Vietnamese coffee, and got a bunch of press about it. And so she tells her story in the EBC, and it allows you to connect with her on a personal basis. This is a great example of it. But like I said, it doesn't have to be the founding story. It could be a story about pretty much anything. Now let's move on to the third element. The third element of this formula is the slideshow. Now, this is a weird psychological trick. This is yet another subconscious psychological action that you're taking. And don't forget, you guys can interrupt me at any time if you want to ask questions, by the way. This is a weird psychological trick where you're actually getting the shopper to invest an act toward you before they add it to their cart, before they click buy now. This is an action that you're actually getting them to take on the listing, and I'll show you why. But before that, let me just explain the concept behind this. So the slideshow is a mix of text and images, but it's interactive. So it basically gives you 4 images, each that have thumbnails, and they're hover over. And the one that you're hovering over becomes the main image in the module. And EBC's or A+ content is broken into modules. So each of these has a module, and you'll see these modules. There's tons of modules that you can choose from, and it's very overwhelming. But with this formula, you only have to use these 6 modules. So it makes it very simple for you. And don't worry about mismatching modules. Just use exactly what I'm saying right here. Makes it very, very simple from something that seems very complicated. Now, this is why it's psychologically such a hack. Okay, so from the customer's perspective, they might not consciously think this, but subconsciously, it's a commitment for them to take some kind of act. Like this whole time you're presenting information to them, right? They're reading this information that you're just putting at them. This is a period where they actually have to take an action to ask for more. And that's this hover over interactive aspect of it. And Amazon is actually planning on coming out with even more interactive components that they beta tested with some sellers, which I'm very, very excited about. But right now is the best, simplest, easiest to implement one. And inside the customer's head, it's actually one level of commitment towards the ultimate goal that you want, which is for them to either add it to cart or click buy now, for them to do this hover over. They're saying, yes, I'm interested enough that I will take this action of hovering over these different images to find out more about it. It's a tiny little commitment that just brings them one step closer to adding it to their cart. And the way to use this is to kind of show them more differentiating X factors about it. And again, just like the story, if you think you don't have X factors, you do. You do. There was this really famous campaign. I have to get this right because I've told this story a couple of times. I still haven't went back to look at which company it was, but it was either Budweiser or Coors. It was a beer company. And they made this whole TV campaign that was extremely successful, all about how their beer was made with fresh, clean spring water. Now, they didn't mention that all the other beer companies also do that. But just by focusing on that, it gave them this differentiating factor like, oh, well, now I know that Budweiser actually is made with fresh, clean spring water. So that makes me want that more. It differentiates it in my mind as the shopper. But so it doesn't even matter that all the other companies also use fresh, clean spring water. They weren't bragging about it and they didn't sell it. So you can sell differentiating factors even if they're not, you just have to get creative in the way that you sell it and the way that you're showing what's new and different about your product. Now, this one is pretty easy because this is a very unique product.
I have one quick question about this.
Sure.
If I can. What should be like the balance between the copy part and the text part and the images? Because I know from my experience that a lot of sellers struggle with that, and they first want to stuff everything full of text and information, and they're really worried to not use the space they have for the text. So what's your approach on that?
You nailed it. You totally nailed it. And that's such a good question because that's something that's, again, this is something that we have to change the mindset of sellers because the whole point of EBC is the visual component. So you want to communicate as much as you possibly can visually and the least amount possible with text. So the text the reason for the text, except for the story part, that part's different because you have to tell the story in the text form, but every other element of the EBC should be all visual heavy with just a small amount of text supporting the visuals. So the way to think of it is the visuals tell the story, the text just supports it. So the visuals should really communicate the idea you're trying to communicate, and you should allow the text just to clarify or support that image. And I'll show you some examples of that later and some really creative ways to do this. That was a really good question. Did I answer that right?
Correct. Yeah, I think the same way, and I totally agree with you. But I feel that sellers are a little afraid to use more images and less text because they're used to that they have to fill in every cap they have for text. So yeah, that's a great answer.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, we run into that a lot as well. Now, this is a place you want to have image heavy. This is another example here of a way that this pet treat company was able to show X factors and really show, like, visually, again, with text supporting it, what the X factors of the product were. The next section is the graphics. You really, this is exactly what I was about to get into. This is a way to visually communicate an element of the product and kind of zoom in on something that's you want an entire module just to communicate. Now, here's one example of this. This part you want to get really creative with, okay? So this is a graphic that we created for that same company that I showed in the very beginning that sells that slime stuff. We took this and we created a custom graphic that shows all of the parts that come into the kit, because this is one of the differentiating factors. It includes all of these things that other kits to make slime don't. So this is actually a really, really great way to communicate this is through a graphic. You can see it's all laid out, numbered, and we have the numbers showing what they are, and a couple icons there, and it has like a visual of the box showing that it's all everything that you need for making the slime in one box. And if you're not a graphic designer, which you're probably not, that's cool. You can get this done very easily. Graphic design resources are some of the most easily outsourced resources ever. So just make a sketch, even if it's ugly, and you can get it done. This is something that is very easily outsourced. If you are trying to do this yourself and you're not getting the whole thing done professionally, you can easily just get creative, make a couple sketches. A lot of them will be bad. And just pick the best one and get that done. This is all about creatively showing this stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have, if you can put the before slide back, I have a question. As we see this slide and this graphic, we see that the information and the text is used inside of the graphic. So you are not using like the text box that comes with the module, but instead you add the text on the graphic itself. So sellers shouldn't be afraid of using that method, right? Exactly.
Yep. And that's the thing. So you actually have a lot of room for creativity inside the modules that Amazon gives you to create A+ content, because you can create custom graphics that you upload just as images. Mm-hmm. You don't have to just use their format with modules that have images with text underneath it and whatnot. You can do exactly this. So yeah, and that's a really good point. You have to keep that in mind, that you can use more creativity than Amazon is actually telling you. And you do that by creating a graphic and uploading it as an image. This is another one. This is actually, these two elements can be intertwined, the banner and the graphic. But here's a really good example of what we were just discussing, which is displaying certain concepts in a visual way. If you take this image like third over with the large dog and the small dog, you would not, if you had a picture with like a big brown dog and a little black dog and a tree in the background and a bunch of grass, you wouldn't know what that picture was trying to communicate. But using icons, which is one of our favorite things to do, is get icons made. Using icons, you can simplify things down to their most simple form that's distilled in a way in which it only communicates the information that you want to communicate. So instead of a picture, we create an icon where the only difference between the dogs is that one of them is big and one of them is small. So it really tells you without even reading the text that this works for large and small dogs, or it can be used on large and small dogs, which is a really, really, again, great way when you have a limited amount of attention. You can communicate more information if you're creative about how you can visually communicate that. And that's the whole point of the EBC, like your question highlighted earlier, that the point is to communicate these ideas visually and not have to use the text to communicate it, but only use the text to support it. And this is one example of that. So next, and like I said, number 4 and number 5, those are interchangeable. Those are the only 2 parts that you can change up. You can make, one before the other. You could double one instead. But this is supposed to be another way to kind of strikingly grab the attention of the customer and give them one message that's either about the brand or about the product in a kind of in-your-face way. And here's an example of that. It's, again, image heavy, striking image, a child's hands with the toy, coming back to this example of the slime. Here's another striking image, cute animal. The internet loves cute animals and babies. Very low on text, but displays the idea that you want to display, like in a very, very simple distilled form. Here's another example, striking imagery. Again, faces are great. This pretty girl with her eyes staring deep, into you using the product and a very little amount of text. This is the important element for that part. Now, lastly, this is the part where when I introduced in the beginning what we were trying to accomplish, the third thing that we're trying to accomplish is to sell. This is where the selling happens. This is perhaps the most magical, beside the story, this is perhaps the most magical part of EBC, and it blows my mind how many sellers don't use this part. But this is the product carousel. Now, the reason this is so magical is because, like we were saying earlier, Amazon is stealing real estate from your listing all the time, more and more. It actually seems like they're more and more trying to get customers to click away from your listing as much as possible, which makes sense for them because they want customers to have the greatest variety and choice because it provides a better customer experience. But it's bad for you as the seller because once they're on the listing, you want them to stay on the listing and buy it. You don't want them clicking off on something that grabs their attention or looks interesting. So the product carousel is actually an opportunity for you to reclaim real estate from your listing and cross-sell your other products, not let Amazon cross-sell other people's products. Now, there are other ways to get real estate on your listing too. You can claim the frequently bought together box by doing package promos. You can reclaim the sponsored products relating to this product by doing product placement ads in your PPC. But here's yet another way to reclaim real estate on your listing by using the product carousel comparison table as the last module in your EBC. And I'll show you exactly how that looks. So a lot of people think, oh, well, these products are very different. It's not like from the same line. I really can't use the product carousel. Yes, you can. You can use the product carousel even if the products aren't from the same line. It doesn't have to be vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin A that you're comparing with one another and what each one does. You can see that all these products are from the same brand, but they're completely different things. Some of them are physical products. Some of them are creams. One of them's a mask. One of them's a dropper. They're all in the same space generally and target the same customer, but they're all totally different lines, totally different products. So it's, you might say, well, you can't do a comparison table around that. Well, you don't have to. You can actually treat this as a miniature listing. It's got the image, it's got the title, and it's got a little description. So you don't even have to use the comparison table part of the table if you don't want. You can actually use each one as a miniature listing. And look at this. We've got 6 listings, and these are all clickable. So they can click onto these. And on each one of these, you'll have EBC that also cross-sells the other ones as well. So we just got a huge amount of real estate back on our listing that we took back from Amazon that allows people to click onto our products and not off to our competitors' products, which is awesome. Here's the way the comparison table is, traditionally supposed to be used. This is kind of the way to hack it. But this is the way it's supposed to be used. comparing the product to other products in the line. So these are different types of slime kits in this example. One's the Ultimate Slime Kit, one's the Unicorn Slime Kit, and one's the Magic Rainbow Slime Kit. And the comparison table is actually showing differences about it. Now, in this case, it's actually highlighting the fact that all of them have things that competitors don't. So you see check, check, check. They're all safe and non-toxic. Check, check, check. They all have instructions included. So you could do that as well. That's another kind of way to hack it. Use this comparison table, and it doesn't have to be different. It could be the same across all of them, and you're just showing everyone that yes, all of them are safe and non-toxic. All of them are good for all the way down to 7-year-old kids. Here's another example of using that kind of checkbox style. Now, this is really, really good for this brand because they have different characters associated with their products. So there's Lambie, Pinky, and Sharky. And this allowed them to highlight the quote unquote unique personality of each one. So Lambie is for calming fears, Pinky is for expressing silly dreams, and Sharky is for personal power and confidence. It was an awesome way to kind of side by side show what each one is for and allow the customer to get the one that's best for them. So it's really, really good for that. That's it, guys. That's a whole formula. Like I said, I know I talked really fast. I compressed it down for you guys so that you could get dense information really, really quickly. A few pro tips before I close this out, and then we can go into more questions if you guys want. But don't be afraid of stock imagery. That's one huge thing. Everyone thinks stock imagery, oh, that's what, you know, the Chinese factories do. It looks corny, it looks cheesy, it doesn't look good. Actually, it does. If you do it right, stock imagery can be an amazing addition to your listing. And there are resources like freepik.com where you can get not just stock imagery, but you know those icons I showed? You can get icons like that from freepik.com. You can get awesome stock imagery from Freepik and other resources. And it doesn't mean that you don't always have to Photoshop your product into the stock imagery. It can just be stock imagery showing your ideal customer, the ideal setting. If you're selling outdoor products, it'd be stock imagery of mountains with a tent, you know, there. But it's also really easy if you have a good Photoshop graphic designer to Photoshop your product into a setting in a way that doesn't look fake. You just have to have a talented person do this. And this is, again, a commoditized sort of skill. You can get this on Upwork very easily. And it's not that expensive.
I wanted to bring out, as you showed the comparison chart, is that you don't have to use the main image you have in the listing in the comparison chart. So you can actually add some text on it or use another image that would be more sellable for the customers. Exactly.
Yep, you nailed it. And that's another little hack. That's a really good catch there, because that's the default, of course, but you're not violating any terms of service by adding that stuff that you always wished you could add to your main image in your listing itself. So really good catch there. And that's very true. We've done that. Awesome. So yeah, that's it. Again, image heavy, text light, as much as you can. You know, don't purposely cut out text that would actually be really, really valuable, but you want to communicate as much as you can in a very visual way. That's the whole point of this. The better the images, the better the EBC. Don't be afraid of stock imagery. And this is what Freepik looks like. Really, I don't have any relationship with them or anything, but it's a really great resource. And that's it. That's it, guys. So I don't even know how to stop sharing my screen now that I hid that thing.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Okay.
We see you and we don't see your screen. So yeah, all good. Nice. We never saw your screen during your presentation.
No way.
No, it's a joke. So can you give us briefly explanation who has access to A+ content? What kind of sellers and which marketplaces?
Yeah, first it was only vendors that had access to this. I remember in like 2015, 2016, people were kind of hacking the HTML code of their description to redirect, to pull an infographic image in, and sellers were getting banned and all this. It was wild. But now it's available to all sellers who have brand registry, and it's available on all major markets. So all the European markets and the North American markets. I don't know if for certain markets like Australia and Mexico if it's not available, but I would assume that it is now completely rolled out. But all the major markets it is, but you do need brand registry in order to get it.
So what do you think, like if a new seller starts selling today and they don't have brand registry yet, should they do it in order to get the EBC, or how long do you suggest to wait until doing that?
Yeah, don't wait to sell for sure. Start selling right away before you have the EBC, but get the brand registry as quickly as you can for sure. It's super key, but definitely don't wait until you have all your ducks in a row. That's actually the number one mistake that I see, not with EBC, but in general with sellers, is that they wait until perfect conditions, whether it's product research or, the amount of money for future orders, forecasting growth, or like you just said, getting brand registry or whatever. Don't wait until all your ducks in a row. Your ducks are never going to be in a row. You have to roll with the punches. That's what being an entrepreneur is all about. You got to go fast and hard.
So, how can you help Amazon sellers who are looking for A+ content, EBC, I don't know, help?
If you don't want to, the formula that I just laid out allows you to do this yourself. I told Augustus I was going to give you guys some raw value that you could use on your own to improve your Amazon businesses and just straight up add value to you guys. We did all the homework, all of the studying of the data for you. So you can literally do this yourself. If you don't have time to, and you want to accelerate things, we are the best in the world at this. So you can hire us to do it for you. And we do this all the time and create EBC for brands. So we know how to do it and we're the best at it. I can say that with full confidence. So you can come to us. You can just email me at chris@sophiesociety.com and I can hook you guys up.
Okay, so I have one technical question. So let's say you gave us the formula and I have done everything. I have prepared the photos, the text, the graphics, everything. And I'm about to upload the content to Amazon in Seller Central. Mm-hmm. So I see that Amazon asked for image keywords. So you didn't cover that part. So what do you recommend sellers adding there? I think there is like 100 character limit or something like this. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so for the image keywords, we rehash the keywords that we use for the back end of the listing into those. And so we haven't done A/B testing on how these back end EBC image keywords affect the indexing of the listing. But from what I've read and what I've seen from other thought leaders in the space, it doesn't have that much of an impact indexing wise. So that's why we use the same keywords just in case, to give them the biggest boost possible, because those are the ones that we're focusing on when it comes to ranking, PPC, and indexing and all of that.
So the main point is just to build trust in the customers and higher the conversion rate. I
think the idea would be about indexing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more around Amazon's algorithm than it is for the front end. But yeah, I don't know the data on how those back-end keywords that it asks you for are implemented. I would love to see a study on that, but we haven't gotten that granular to be able to study that and get the data back ourselves. That is a really good question.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Chris. One more time, how can people get in touch with you?
You can just email me, chris@sophiesociety.com.
Sophiesociety.com.
Yes.
Oh, I had trouble to remember what is the second word. I was thinking Sophie Academy, Sophie Society. SS. Okay, cool. Thank you very much and good luck in your business. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Peace out, guys.
I do hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, don't forget to subscribe to Orange Klik's YouTube channel. Click the button below, click the notification bell as well, and get notified about new interviews and videos we create together with Amazon experts, Amazon service providers, Amazon software creators, as well as event organizers for Amazon sellers. See you in the next video.